Welcome to the SVG-TV news for Thursday, July 30th. With the details this evening, I am Khalil Kato. SVG joined with the rest of the world today to observe World Day Against Trafficking in Persons, which seeks to highlight first responders in human trafficking. In a statement to commemorate the day, Minister of National Security, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, who is the chair of the Task Force Against Human Trafficking, said that SVG has done well for the past decade to combat human trafficking.
Mass sensitization and awareness raising campaigns to alert the general public about human trafficking. About 20,000 students, primary, secondary, and tertiary, and the teachers, since 2012, have been involved in these awareness raising campaigns. 8. The investigation of a number of potential human trafficking cases and would-be human traffickers. 9. Providing protection, assistance, and care to potential victims of human trafficking. 10. Regional and international cooperation with stakeholders in this mammoth battle to investigate, arrest, and prosecute these human traffickers.
The United Nations report stated that SVG remains at Tier 2 in human trafficking for the third consecutive year. SVG's 5-year National Action Plan comes to an end this year, and according to PM Gonsalves, steps have been taken to renew this plan by the relevant stakeholders.
The Anti-Trafficking in Persons Unit convened a two-day symposium on July 28 to 29 with stakeholders in the public sector, the private sector, and the non-governmental organizations. And basically that was to review the National Action Plan, which expires this year. And that's why I said it has to be refreshed. And the Memorandum of Understanding to combat trafficking, human trafficking. Jason Haynes, whom we all know, Dr. Jason Haynes, a young Vincentian professional, he's assisting in this particular process, this review process.
PM Gonsalves took the opportunity to thank all first responders, such as law enforcement officers, health personnel, and non-governmental organizations in SVG who are on the front line in combating human trafficking. He made an appeal to persons to report any incident of human trafficking, which is a criminal act punishable by law.
In Brussels, as we move forward in this great cause to end modern-day slavery, I encourage you to join us, all of us, in doing so. If you see or hear something touching and concerning human trafficking, say something. That is to say, report it to the authorities. This is but one of the ways which you can play your part to end human trafficking. You can contact the Anti-Human Trafficking in Persons Unit at telephone numbers 784-456-1750.
The official logo of the Anti-Trafficking in Persons Unit was also unveiled today by PM Gonsalves and Commissioner of Police Colin John in the NBC studio. The logo was created and designed by police officer Shoy Roach. The New York-based Caribbean Guyana Institute for Democracy, CGID, voted unanimously on Monday to revoke the Democracy Prize it had awarded Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves in 2005. A news release from the group said the decision by the board of directors and its general membership was taken at a public town hall meeting on Monday night with an online viewership of over 55,120 members and supporters in attendance. PM Gonsalves was awarded the prize at a ceremony in 2005 at which then leader of the British House of Lords, Baroness Valerie Amos, was the keynote speaker. The motion to revoke the Democracy Prize accused PM Gonsalves of violating the standards of democracy, as required by the charter of the prize to which he was obligated. The motion stated that Gonsalves violated the principles of democracy and the terms of the prize by interfering in the elections in Guyana in an egregious and partisan manner to help one side rather than act as an intermediary to help bring about an amicable and just solution. It contended that in an editorial published in St. Vincent, Guyana, and around the Caribbean, titled A Personal Editorial, Gonsalves fanned the flames of racism using inciting and incendiary language. The release said the board mandated Burke to communicate its decision to Dr. Gonzalez and to request that the prize be returned by the end of August. An issue that involves residents of Beckway and two individuals living in Spring, Beckway, has been brought to the attention of the Prime Minister, Dr. Ralph Gonzalez, who addressed it on radio yesterday. PM Gonzalez said he is not pleased with what is happening there and is in receipt of emails and complaints about the attitude of the two individuals who are foreign nationals but who are now citizens of SVG. PM Gonzalez said he would like the issue to be resolved amicably and that the two individuals at the center of the controversy should not abuse the citizenship granted to them.
In an altercation or in a conflict, one person or two persons came to me, said, who are citizens, either by naturalization or registration, said to the Vincentian-born citizen, "Do not think any of you can get me out of here. I am a citizen like you, and I can say what I want, and I can do what I want." I want to say to such persons, don't talk like that, because it's not so. I also want to say to our Vincentian-born citizens, don't throw it in the face of others who come amongst us. Let us be civil.
Explaining deprivation of citizenship under Section 14 of the SVG Citizenship Act, by way of information, PM Gonzalez said citizenship can be revoked and urged all to take heed.
A citizen of St. Vincent and the Grenadines by registration or naturalization shall cease to be a citizen of St. Vincent and the Grenadines if he is deprived of that citizenship by an order of the minister made under this section. 2. Subject to this section, the minister may by order deprive a citizen of St. Vincent and the Grenadines by registration or naturalization of his citizenship if he, the minister, is satisfied that A, and you have A to H, it is not conducive to the public interest, public order, public safety, or national security, that the person should continue to be a citizen of St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
PM Gonzalez said there should be mutual respect among citizens, whether they are foreign or local.
I'm urging all those who come here as citizens, don't think you're better than us. We're not better than anybody, but nobody's better than us. And don't come with some old plantation attitudes. And don't come with an attitude as though you are taking the side of the South during the Civil War in the United States.
Retired banker Laverne Gibson Velox has been selected by the NDP's East St. George Constituency Council as their choice of candidate for the upcoming general elections. At a council meeting last night, Gibson Velox secured 14 votes, while former national footballer Renson Haynes and teacher Adriana King got 3 votes each. Gibson Velox's nomination has to be ratified by the central executive of the NDP before she is formally declared as a candidate for the party. Once ratified, Gibson Velox is expected to challenge Minister of Finance Camilo Gonzalez for the East St. George seat. Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonzalez has said that general elections will be held by the end of this year, ahead of the March 2021 constitutional deadline. In an interview with SVG-TV News Today, Gibson Velox said she is ready for the challenge and is overwhelmed by the support she has been receiving, noting that she will be working hard to bring home the East St. George seat for the NDP.
I'm still a little overwhelmed. I never looked at it, with any kind of gender bias or anything like that. It was just something that I felt I needed to do. And to be honest, it is like an honor to be able to, represent East St. George, I guess, St. Vincent and the Grenadines in some capacity. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the other two persons, the other prospective candidates there were, for a spirited campaign, so to speak, and really would like to encourage them to join me on the campaign trail to get this victory for the New Democratic Party. This is about the people, and I know I have to reach the people to get my message across.
The retired banker said entering the political arena was something she always desired, and when the opportunity presented itself for an NDP candidate for East St. George, she was happy to jump in.
I've been thinking about it a while because I've been following the NDP from 1984. And but 3 years ago is when I really started thinking about it seriously, and then I figured I wasn't ready, so I shelved it. And then all of a sudden, so many things were pointing me in that direction that I just figured it was time. It was time to do it. Well, there was a vacancy also because that constituency had no candidate for a while. I'm of the firm opinion that it was waiting for me all these years. Basically, I really want to represent. I think I have a contribution to make, and this is the way I'm going to reach as many people as possible to impact their lives in some way.
Gibson Velox said she has no fear of going up against the ULP's Camilo Gonzalez, the present area representative, noting that he is just another human being.
Not at all, not at all, not at all. We're just two humans. We're just two humans. I know it could get quite rambunctious, but I'm ready. I'm ready for anything. I'm ready for the experience. Usually nobody gets into a race without the expectation of winning. So yes, that is my intention. It is to win, and that's my expectation. This time, this place, and this new venture was on the cards. I knew that I wanted to do this. Had I waited longer, then they could have said I was too old.
Meanwhile, leader of the NDP, Dr. Godwin Friday, said last evening's selection process went well, and he is confident that Gibson Velox can bring home the seat of East St. George for the NDP in the next general elections.
It's pretty much, we have one candidate going forward, so the confirmation process will be pretty much routine because that's what the Constitution requires. But I expect that I wouldn't say it's routine, but I expect that the Central Committee will confirm. I welcome Ms. Velox to the team. I think she will be a wonderful candidate and a very good representative for the New Democratic Party, and that she will win the seat for us. That's what the delegates were tasked with, to get us the best candidate. I have no doubt that Ms. Velox will be winning the seat there for the New Democratic Party.
Dr. Friday also thanked the other two persons who put themselves forward as a candidate. A former educator, Maria Jackson Richards, on Tuesday had her lifelong dream realized when she was called to the bar of St. Vincent and the Grenadines before Her Ladyship Justice Nicola Beyer of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court. Having submitted her resignation letter signaling the official end of her teaching career at the end of the 2016 school year, Jackson Richards took the first step in becoming a lawyer when she enrolled and started pursuing her legal studies in the United Kingdom. After the successful completion of her studies, she was called to the Bar of England and Wales through the Honourable Society of Lincoln's Inn in 2019 and went on to be called to the bar in the British Virgin Islands in March 2020, whilst she was actively engaged in completing her pupillage at the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, the National Prosecution Service of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, which she started in November 2019. The application for Jackson Richards' call to the bar of SVG was moved by Director of Public Prosecutions Sajilla McDowell and seconded by Assistant Director of Prosecutions Tamika Da Silva McKenzie, a former student of the newest member of the local legal fraternity. Due to COVID-19 safety and security measures, the call was conducted virtually via the Zoom platform. Police have laid additional charges against Freddie Douglas Jr., a 26-year-old mechanic of Murray's Village, in relation to the theft of $389,155.95, the property of the Bank of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The police say, according to investigations carried out, Douglas was charged for entering into or becoming concerned in an arrangement which he knew or suspected facilitated by whatever means the acquisition, retention, use of controlled criminal property by or on behalf of another person, to wit, the sum of $389,155.95, which was received by the Bank of St. Vincent and the Grenadines in his name, which he knew or suspected in whole or in part, directly or indirectly represented the proceeds of criminal conduct between June 1st and July 24th, 2020. Douglas was further charged with having in his possession criminal property, to wit, a silver Toyota Sprinter car bearing registration number PS996, which he knew or suspected in whole or in part, directly or indirectly represented the proceeds of criminal conduct at Kingstown between July 5th and July 26, 2020. Douglas is expected to appear before the Serious Offences Court to answer to the charges. The Medicinal Cannabis Authority, the MCA, continues to seek ways, either through technology or the use of natural resources, to develop the local medicinal cannabis industry. Chief Executive Officer of the MCA, Dr. Gerald Thompson, highlighted the advances being made in the industry and what is being done to ensure its survival. Dr. Thompson said, along with the promotion of outdoor farming, which is recognized as being superior to indoor farming, SVG is home to a unique soil type, which adds to the country's strategic advantage with medicinal cannabis.
It's called molic andosol, and it's been highly researched. It occupies just 0.75%, less than 1% of the Earth's surface. It's a rare soil. It's a volcanic soil, and it's right here in St. Vincent. It's high phosphate, minerals. Sometimes the minerals are not as available as possible, so you have to use compost with it. But what it means is that this same soil, which has been great for arrowroot and lends itself to potential for geographical indication. In other words, you could say that only in St. Vincent can produce this particular stuff. That it lends itself to a particular type of medicinal cannabis that's coming from very high quality soil. And so all those persons who in the past were talking about St. Vincent has special soil, and if you plant a Vincentian, they will grow. There's something in it. And we are going to use these things as part of the strategic advantage of St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
While SVG is known for its agricultural prowess, it is also prone to natural disasters, as the rest of the region, which can destroy farms. Dr. Thompson says the authority has been working with farmers to ensure that they plant in areas which provide some shelter from these events.
First of all, when somebody is selecting land, we have to look at the historical events that have taken place in the past. If there's been landslides, if there's been anything of that nature, you can get a little idea of what has happened in that particular location in the past. There's some areas that would have naturally had windbreaks, and some would have chopped down the windbreaks. We try to discourage that. So, having proper windbreaks and the selection of the site for the land is something that the MCA has gone into. And one or two persons who have chosen some lands, we've had to tell them, we don't think this is a good idea to do any sort of farming there. And this would not only have been for medicinal cannabis, it would have been for bananas, it would have been for other crops as well, and so forth.
Dr. Thompson said the authority also promotes the use of natural and proper agricultural practices, which ensures a high quality product.
We see dangers in other respects. The use of pesticides. We are a non-pesticide use country. touchdown, Roundup Gramophone. We don't use any of that. There are some natural pesticides that can be used, and they have to be approved in terms of fertilizer. We believe a lot in composting and so forth, and added to our soil, as I mentioned, high quality soil. It's considered to be almost a blessing and perfect in that regard. But we are going to be talking to the farmers. You certainly haven't reached anywhere in terms of crop insurance and all those sort of things. But one good thing is that the cannabis production is a relatively short crop. Most times a year it can be a matter of about 3 months or so. But we are more focused on making sure that persons grow the cannabis properly.
Meanwhile, as part of its public awareness campaign to sensitize the Vincentian public about substance abuse in the context of patient access, the MCA will host an education session at the Old Treasury Car Park tomorrow in Kingstown. Rangers play a critical role in taking care of national parks, recreational and heritage sites worldwide, and annually they are recognized for their work on July 31st. However, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the activities which would normally be held by the National Environmental Day Committee to recognize and celebrate their work have been put on hold. Our news team, however, got the opportunity to visit the outdoor office of one very experienced park ranger attached to the National Parks, Rivers and Beaches Authority. His name is Erasto Maxwell Robertson, who is responsible for the Western Range, which encompasses Kingstown to the Falls of Belen and includes the western trail of the La Soufrière volcano. Robertson has been a ranger since the inception of the National Parks, Rivers and Beaches Authority, established in 2001. One of the historic sites which falls within Robertson's range is the 13 Stones, which are located on the leeward side of the island. Robertson highlighted why this site is of significant historical value to SVG as a civilization.
That this may have been the oldest site in this part of the world. These stuff we see a while ago on these rocks would have been at the earlier of human presence in these parts of the world. And interestingly, St. Vincent and the Grenadines seem to have been occupied for thousands of years. That showed up very evidently at Argyle when the petroglyphs there were unearthed from quite some feet below the surface. And having done some studies, they would have been able to carbon date them to thousands of years ago. So we on this island, our civilization has been here for quite some time.
The experienced park ranger said there are many historical sites in SVG which locals do not know about, and efforts must be made to educate them.
There's so much that this nation, the most of the population, not aware of. Stuff like the 13 Stones. Even Dr. Kirby would have been writing about these stuff for decades. Not many people know that they're here. Not many people who would have gone, not many persons who would have gone to see the petroglyphs at Peterbedel. And as a matter of fact, I don't think that the petroglyph park at Leigh is being as visited as most of the other sites. And I think that is a matter of we being able to see the importance, the history and the heritage and everything else that goes with it. We have to be mindful not to lose the stories as we move on, because these are stories from whence we came, and we need to be making an extra effort to have the other generation become aware of them.
When asked about the tourism potential of such sites, Robertson said while the potential is great, the first step must be to protect and preserve these sites.
I'm going to be bluntly honest with you in that at present I think is the need and the focus should be on our people knowing what we have. Our people need to know the value of these things before we even start to share them with the rest of the world. Because if we don't value them or if we don't take care of them properly and we expose them, then the likelihood of losing them bit by bit is very real. So we need, as a nation, first of all, to be mindful that we know what we have, and then when we know what we have and we know how to preserve what we have, then we could share with the rest of the world. The world, there are millions of people out there who want to see this stuff, who value this stuff, but we have to be mindful how we package it, how we make sure that when they come, they are protected from being abused and stuff like that.